Finovate showcases cutting-edge banking and financial technology through a global conference series featuring short-form demos and thought leadership. Now, the conversation continues on the Finovate podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the Finovate podcast. Joining me today, we have a real treat for you. We have the Citizens CIO, Michael Ruttledge. Michael, thank you so much for joining me.
It's great to be with you.
So for people who aren't familiar with Citizens, can you take a moment to just kind of introduce yourself and let us know what Citizens is all about?
Absolutely. So I'm Michael Ruttledge. I'm the CIO for Citizens. I've been here at the bank almost 4 years now. I joined from American Express, where I was one of the CIOs there. And, what attracted me to Citizens was the fact that it is a super regional bank, that it's headquartered in Rhode Island and in the Northeast, and that it's really focused on a broad spectrum of products. It has a broad range of commercial, a broad range of consumer products, and it's a company that really wants to innovate, and some great examples of that. And we've really been able to leverage the strong engineering talent we have at the bank to really deliver new capabilities to the banks over the course of the last 3 years. And I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, no, I've been doing some research on you all in preparation for this, and some of the pieces you've been able to roll out have been really impressive. I'd like to start by just having you talk through some of those new digital capabilities that you've been rolling out over those last couple of years. What are some of the big ones that you've been working on over the last year or two that you're especially proud of?
Yeah, we set out a bold vision to modernize the technology platforms and infrastructure through something we called Next Generation Technology Strategy. And what I'm most excited about is some of the key critical business enablers that's enabled us to enable. So if you think we've really done a tremendous job moving to the cloud. So we partner with both AWS and Azure, but we started with AWS. And we've actually built a platform on AWS that has really been able to unleash our developers. And some good examples of that are we've launched a new lending as a service product. We've launched our new mobile app for our national digital bank. We've launched a one-click home equity product, Citizens Pay product, numerous commercial products. So through this infrastructure modernization and through the cloud, we've been really able to significantly increase our speed to market and frankly, reduce the cost of some of these platforms.
Yeah, no, as I said, it's clear you've been very busy. And I think the question that kind of jumps immediately to my mind is, how did you decide to prioritize some of these pieces? Because the universe of potential projects is massive. And so the question I think a lot of banking executives have is, where should I spend my limited resources? So in your case, was it something that was kind of internally driven? Was it based on customer feedback that you guys were getting? Or is it something altogether different from that?
It's a great question, Greg. And, it's a combination of all of the above, right? So we're very focused at Citizens on our customers. And we have a number of listening posts with those customers. So, one thing we heard loud and clear was that availability wasn't where it needed to be. So, especially with our mobile apps. And people, of course, especially since the pandemic, have become so dependent on digital capabilities that we recognize that, priority number one was really improving the availability of some of our core platforms. And, we've done that by moving to more of a microservices architecture built on the cloud, where we can, get resiliency at much lower levels of granularity with the capabilities that we're developing, so that if one piece of an application goes down, it doesn't impact the whole application. And the way we've really revamped our DevSecOps pipeline to do releases much more quickly, to build in quality into the pipeline. So we're checking code quality, we're checking for vulnerabilities as before we move that into production. The way that we've deployed sort of blue and green deployments, so you're testing something live in production before you flip the switch and enable the rest of the traffic. So we've really delivered with a mindset of making sure that the systems are as highly available as possible. That's I'd say that's one area we certainly put to the top of the priority list.
Sure. No, I think that makes sense. Another question that I had, when you're looking at implementing new pieces of technology, I think in many cases it's less about what's new and more about how does that new piece interact with what you've already got. And one of the pieces that you mentioned was kind of updating the system to give yourself the ability to play with new technologies. Can you talk about that process a little bit more and just what was involved in getting yourselves ready to kind of go out and engage a bunch of new technologies?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that, like many banks, like many financial services institutions, we have a large legacy footprint, largely on the mainframe, that has many point-to-point interfaces that really inhibited our speed to market. So we've been on a journey of really moving to RESTful APIs, so we can, as I said earlier, we can deliver much more discrete building blocks. We can reduce the cycle time, and we connected that up to our mainframe systems and really encapsulated that so that I can partner with different fintechs, but I hide the legacy components from them. They can still code in Java and more modern languages, and then I'm actually able to do things that they can still access the mainframe or databases on the mainframe seamlessly. So it's thinking through that overall architecture, revamping that. We started with blueprints, really looking at the current landscape, really laying out a point of view on what we saw as our point of arrival architecture, and then step by step building the sort of foundations to get there. Because Rome wasn't invented in a day, right? You can't get there overnight. You just got to build the building blocks to get there.
No, absolutely. And I think this is one of those pieces which is potentially a little bit off-putting to somebody who's about to start this journey, right? There's so much work that has to go in before you can really, feel like you're making substantial progress. And I think for a lot of people who are kind of embracing this, there's the unknown element of it as well. So I think it'd be good to just get this out there. What were some of the biggest hurdles that you encountered as a part of this process? Where should people potentially, now I don't want to say expect to get stuck, but where should people be aware that there are some pitfalls or hurdles that they need to deal with?
Some of it is a cultural change because, frankly, people have been doing things certain ways, developing in a waterfall methodology. And as we were doing this transformation, we were moving to agile. We were moving at a completely different speed. Some of the products that I mentioned earlier, we're now delivering in weeks, not months or years previously. So it's a massive culture change for both the business teams and the technology teams. And that partnership has to get so much closer because you've got to ideate, you've got to develop on the fly, you've got to change or iterate. And that requires a big cultural change at a bank. And I think that was probably one of the biggest changes that we had to cope with.
Yeah, that actually brings me to two questions that I'd like to explore a little bit more, because I think obviously you're talking about something that, again, a lot of financial institutions struggle with. So I'd like to explore kind of first off how you go about building a technology team that's able to do this. And then I'll follow that up by kind of talking about how the technology team can interact with the rest of the bank, because I know that's a substantial hurdle as well. But let's start with the first one there. You obviously were able to build a team that's been successful. What can you tell us about some of the really important pieces that allowed you to do that?
Yeah, a couple of things. I think it starts with assessing from the top down the leadership team that you have and the sort of technical competence of that leadership team, because I have a firm belief that great engineers at any level will hire great engineers. So you need to have the people in your leadership team who are going out and bringing people into the company who are solid technically and have that engineering background. And then it's leveraging the existing people you have with the new people, that mixture, which is so powerful. So we've been on a massive retraining exercise here where we took 250 of our existing colleagues and put them through what we call an engineering academy, which was a 10-week hands-on program that they could relearn modern technology. So some of these were mainframe COBOL programmers who were very technical but hadn't delivered in sort of new cloud environments. So, we delivered 42 different badge programs for them, and they've really embraced it. That's been the great thing about this, is that we haven't mandated that people take these badges or mandated they go to these academies, but they've embraced it and they really wanted to learn. And that's just been terrific to see. And then in parallel, we've gone out to the industry and hired 750 employees over the course of the last 3 years. And what's really exciting is that this year the majority of those engineers have been from fintech companies. So we've hired from Amazon and Salesforce and PayPal, etc. And we're attracting them here because of the cool stuff we're working on. So that's been really exciting. That mixture, I would say, of, because you need the institutional knowledge. You need that. It's critical. But at the same time, we needed to infuse some new blood into the bank with deep technical engineering skills, and we've been able to do that.
So how much has the department actually grown as you've done this? Has it been adding new people in, or has it been kind of replacing people so you've stayed about the same size?
We've definitely grown, but we also had, when I joined, we had a very heavy reliance on vendors, on offshore resources. And as we were moving to more of an agile delivery environment where you need people in the same minimum in the same time zones or co-located, we pivoted to having much more colleagues as opposed to vendors. So we reduced our dependence on vendors and added colleagues in their place, and frankly, they're so much more productive than offshore resources. Now, we still have a great partnership with our outsourced vendors, and we still leverage them. We're not, but it's significantly reduced from where it was.
No, that makes sense. And I think that's definitely a model that others can emulate. The next question that I hinted at earlier, obviously having engineers kind of buy in from the technology side is really crucial, but getting buy-in from the rest of the bank is also crucial. I've seen so many good pieces of technology that kind of die on the vine because nobody inside the bank advocates for them, particularly when it comes time to that sort of frontline bank employee when they're getting the message out to actual customers. Hey, this technology is available. Here's how you use it. Here's what it's for. A lot of new tech initiatives struggle at that point. How have you been able to cross that bridge and get people outside of the tech team excited and engaged about the new pieces that you're rolling out?
Yeah, frankly, some of it has been top down, right? I think there was, from the CEO down, there's been, just a lot of focus on innovation. And that's one, in looking at ideas that generate more revenue for the bank, but also on making us much more efficient and improve the customer experience. And so we have something called a TOP program here at the bank, where we've been able to set aside funds to enable about 100 million in saves on an annual basis by introducing programs such as War on Paper, where we've really gone after paper processing and really tried to reduce that, or leveraging Salesforce to significantly do end-to-end processing much more efficiently. So been a big focus on that. And then I think the businesses have seen the speed at which we're able to deliver and the business results. If you look at the home equity line of credit program that we implemented in weeks, the cycle time for that for our customers has gone down from 44 days to 20 days. The NPS score has improved 8 to 10 points for our customers. So wow. I think when our businesses see that, they've embraced it, and they're part of this journey. We cannot do it without that partnership, and they've had to learn new techniques. We've had to train our people to be product owners, experience owners, to have that mindset, and I think the business has embraced that as well. It's a journey. We're on that journey, but there's been terrific partnership from the business.
No, I think that's excellent. And getting it from the top down obviously is important. Getting that buy-in, and I think being able to show people, hey, this really does work, is something obviously which makes it a lot easier as well. So time for one last question. You mentioned you're on a journey. I think the question that I'd like to close with is just what's next? How much farther are you planning? How much farther is the journey, I guess, to continue the analogy? What are the next kind of big pieces that we should expect to see from Citizens over the next 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, well, we're doubling down in the cloud, right? We're about halfway through that journey, and we will exit all of our data centers by 2025 and be 100% in the cloud. And so that's a huge unlock from a cost perspective and also a time to market perspective. We're moving to a modern banking core. So we're moving our core banking platform for deposits and checking to a modern banking core. So that's a big change that we're doing over the next course of the 3 years. Biden eating that elephant one bite at a time. We're not we're not doing one big bang. We've moved our deposits product onto that. We launched it a couple of months ago. We'll launch checking on that come April, and then additional products down the line. So there are a couple of big things that we have in mind. I think we've also done a massive amount of work in the data space as well. So I think, we eliminated all our data appliance solutions, and we've built a data lake on AWS. And I think we're in a great position now to really take advantage of some of the AI and machine learning capabilities that are out there. We've been introducing chatbots to improve the customer experience, speed that they get responses. And I think this is an area that I'm really excited that we're going to be able to do some great things in.
No, that's excellent. And I think it really speaks to, what becomes possible once you kind of lay the groundwork for these types of innovations. You start to get yourself in a position where more and more things become possible, where your ambitions can get bigger and bigger. And I think you're in the middle of seeing that right now. So I'm afraid we have to leave it there. This has been a really enjoyable conversation for myself. Again, we've been chatting to the CIO of Citizens, Michael Ruttledge. Michael, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Thanks, Greg.
The Finovate podcast is produced by Informa Connect in association with Provoke.fm Media. Check out Finovate.com for information on Finovate's upcoming shows and to learn how you can get involved. The discount code Finovate Podcast will save you 20% on tickets to all of our events. And you can email us at info@finovate.com for information on sponsoring, speaking, or demoing. Thanks for listening.